Hi everyone, for our 7th grade Elevate groups today, students will be understanding inequalities. So students have been working on understanding equations and solving equations last week. This week we're jumping into inequalities, which is very similar to equations. What we want to stamp for students are these 4 symbols right here. So it says you can write an inequality to compare two quantities that are not equal or may not be equal. Inequalities can be written using one of these symbols. Please stamp for students how to say these symbols. So don't just say, here are the 4 symbols. No. Make sure that you say less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, okay? And so they tell you that 3 is less than 10 is an inequality statement, right? And then it jumps into a couple of different examples on how to utilize these symbols. If you want to go through these with kids, you can. I have provided you some examples or some numbers that you can substitute for these variables so it makes sense to students as you're walking them through it. So for example, I'll go over this one. So instead of A, we'll substitute 3 for A, and then for B, we'll substitute 2 plus 1, right? So we'll say 3 is less than or equal to B. And so when we solve this B, 2 plus 1, we see that it is 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. So yes, it is equal. It ends up being equal to each other, right? This is a good example to show kids because kids might say, what do we mean greater than or equal to? What does the or equal to mean? Well, when we solve, we get to see whether our inequality statement is greater than or is it equal. And so I think what might be the biggest bang for your buck is to spend time here around what true inequality statements are. Because again, students have done a lot of work since maybe even the 3rd grade around comparing numbers. And so they're very familiar with the greater than sign, the less than sign. What they're not familiar with are the inequality symbols with the equal sign at the bottom, right? So 12 plus 6 is greater than or equal to 15. If students were to go ahead and solve 12 plus 6, they will get 18. And it is true, right? It is a true inequality statement because 18 is greater, so that top piece of the inequality statement, right, than 15. And then here, I'll do this question right here where it says 12 plus 1 is greater than 15, right? When I go ahead and I solve for 12 plus 1, I get 13. 13 is not greater than 15. 13 is also not equal to 15. So because it's not greater than or equal to 15, this is not a true inequality statement, okay? So from there, you're going to model questions A, B, and C for about 5 minutes. Here we have some sort of like word problem where it says 21 is a less than. Go ahead and have students annotate this with the less than symbol above the words, right? Or equal to, you can have them also do the full equal symbol above to 50 and let them know that, well, because they have mentioned both of these, right, that means we'll be using this symbol right here. So then we're translating, right? We're bringing the 21 down from the statement. We're bringing that symbol down that we just talked about. And then we're bringing the 50 down to give us this inequality statement. And then for question B, they are asking us whether this is a true inequality statement. Is 5 times 5 greater than 25, right? So we know that we have a problem here that we need to solve. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 is not greater than 25, So this is not a true inequality statement. In fact, we know that 25 should be equal to 25. And then here we are also determining whether an inequality is true. And it's asking whether the symbol that they've used makes this inequality true, right? So 7 is less than or equal to 72 ninths. And so again, we have some math work that we're going to need to do. We know that fractions are directly correlated to division, and so instead of working with a fraction, we will go ahead and simplify, or we'll go ahead and do division. 72 divided by 9 is 8. So the question that we want to really ask ourselves is 7 less than or equal to 8? Is 7 equal to 8? No, it's not. But is 7 less than 8? Yes, it is. So because 7 is less than 8, then it is a true inequality statement. Okay? So students are going to spend about 5 minutes doing some partner practice around questions 1, 3, and 5, and then jump into their exit ticket for questions 2, 4, and 6. Now, listen, in total, students will only have 6 questions to practice with. So as you're walking around and circulating to check whether 1, 3, and 5 are being done well or students are grasping the concept, as a teacher, you may be able to decide like, hey, the students are getting it, great, let's launch them into the exit ticket. Or you might say, hey, in these 3 questions, they haven't had enough at-bats, so let's scrap the exit ticket for the day so that they can have 3 extra set of questions that they can use to practice.